Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the debrief for the 2018 Mexican Grand Prix. And I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed that race. We got overtaking, wheel-to-wheel racing, and some strategy intrigue thrown in there as well. All in all, a really good race. But before we get on to any of that, let's start by having a look at the race result. For the second year in a row, it was Max Verstappen who took victory in Mexico ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who was 17.3 seconds behind. And of course, that means before we even get to Lewis Hamilton, that the Brit was crowned a 5-time world champion, and that's despite only coming home in 4th place. Kimi Raikkonen rounded off the podium for Ferrari in 3rd, with the second Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas down in 5th, and he was lapped by Max Verstappen. Only 4 cars at the end of that race were on the lead lap of the Grand Prix. Nico Hülkenberg was best of the rest in 6th, really good drive from him, equally so from Charles Leclerc in 7th. A good weekend for Sauber overall, thanks to Marcus Ericsson picking up a couple more points for 9th. And as you can see there, Stoffel Van Dorn sandwiched between the two of them. I'll talk about him a little bit later on for 8th place. And Pierre Gasly from 20th on the grid recovers to 10th in the race. A fantastic achievement, 1 point for Toro Rosso. But as you'll see a little bit later in the video, that is not enough to stop Sauber overtaking them in the Constructors' Championship. Esteban Ocon was 11th for Force India, disappointing weekend for them with Stroll in 12th and Sirotkin 13th for Williams. Brendan Hartley got in a little bit of a tangle with Esteban Ocon, I'll talk about that briefly later as well. He was down in 14th for Toro Rosso, but what a miserable weekend for Haas. Where did their pace go? I genuinely did believe they'd be strong in Mexico, but it was 15th for Magnussen and 16th and last for Romain Grosjean. That's a result, with Hülkenberg 6th, that could be critical in that fight for 4th. Really disappointing. And your retirements list for Mexico was Daniel Ricciardo again, Sergio Perez, much to the disappointment of the home fans, Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso. I'm going to talk about Lewis Hamilton in just a moment, but as I always do in these videos, I'm going to start with the race winner, and as you saw there, it was Max Verstappen who took the win in dominant fashion. What is it about Mexico? Seems to love that track, won there last year, of course, in dominant style as well. But it was all off the line. He got the jump on his slow-starting teammate Daniel Ricciardo, bogging down quite a bit off the line. And the Dutchman managed to fight off a very fast-starting Lewis Hamilton into turn 1 and never really looked back. And he just managed his race and his tyres absolutely perfectly to clinch what was a very well-deserved win. And as I've kind of touched on there, it never really looked in any doubt other than perhaps that late push from Sebastian Vettel after the German had overtaken Ricciardo and Hamilton. But when you listened to him on team radio and you watched how he was driving, Verstappen just seemed to have it all under complete control, frankly. And team boss Christian Horner after the race described his drive as incredible. But speaking after the race, Verstappen himself stated, "Yesterday I was very frustrated and disappointed, but today I am really happy. And Sunday is the best day to be happy. I didn't sleep much last night and found today's race build-up a long one. But after the lights went out, my feelings soon changed. Once ahead, I could just settle in and concentrate on my own race, especially as Lewis looked to be struggling with grip. I made sure I matched his lap times to maintain the lead. We got the strategy spot on again. Having another set of super softs meant I was able to manage the wear, knowing I had a fresh set to go on to towards the end of the race. So, when Seb pitted, we did the same and were able to keep the gap. When I saw Daniel pull over, I asked the team if they should turn my engine down, as I already had such an advantage. I wanted to be sure we made it to the checkered flag. It was such a shame, as we were definitely on for at least a double podium, if not a 1-2. To be perfectly honest, it was just yet another example of how much he's matured over the course of this season. And that's right down to things like asking about turning the engine down after Ricciardo's retirement. And it really is great to see. It was a fantastic drive, and not just in the race, but over the weekend as a whole. Going into the weekend, all the talk was about whether or not Lewis Hamilton would clinch a 5th world title, and he did. But it wasn't one of Mercedes' better weekends, to be fair. But I'm sure that won't matter too much to him at the moment, though. He did struggle throughout the race with tyre degradation, so much so that at one point, he ended up cutting across turn 1 as he struggled later on in the race. And the Brit was not happy about it all over team radio. I mean, it was, as we discussed last night, a real surprise to see so many tyre issues for drivers. This season we've become accustomed to one-stop races, but we got at least 2 from the majority of the field, and there was even talk at one point that Hamilton may have to make a 3rd stop, as of course teammate Valtteri Bottas did. However, despite struggling with the race itself, it didn't ultimately matter, as Sebastian Vettel failed to take the win that he needed to keep the title alive for at least one more race. And regardless, Hamilton crossed the line in 4th, and that would have been enough even had the Ferrari gone on to win. So it's a 5th world title for Hamilton, joining Juan Manuel Fangio and Michael Schumacher as the only drivers to reach that milestone in F1. The German, of course, taking a total of 7. I'm sure you don't need me to remind you of that. And reacting to his title win, Hamilton stated, It's something that I dreamed of, but never in a million years did I think I would be standing here today as a 5-time world champion. It's definitely my best year, and that's the goal. When I won the championship last year, I was like, how am I going to improve? How can I be fitter? How can I be more focused? How can I be a better all-round driver? I've tried to be a better son, to be a better friend, just in all areas. I honestly feel like I've performed my best this year, so I'm very, very happy with how it's gone. I hope this feeling kicks in soon. I definitely feel more excitement coming as I'm thinking about it more. Since Hamilton clinched that title yesterday, it's led to the inevitable where does he rank among the greats debate, and that's certainly a topic I will be covering in a video in the near future, but for now, he absolutely deserves all the plaudits he's getting. And I'm sure by saying that to the odd one or two, that's going to suddenly make me a Lewis Hamilton fanboy, but to those select few, seriously, wake up. He has been a better driver over the course of the year, and whether people like it or not, the title is thoroughly deserved. He's made fewer mistakes than Sebastian Vettel, and after the summer break, just hit another gear. It wasn't a great weekend in terms of the race, but it was a fantastic season overall from the Brit. And leading on from that, Sebastian Vettel has been described as a class act by a lot of people after the way he handled himself following the race on Sunday. The German approached Lewis Hamilton in the stadium to congratulate him on the title win, but that wasn't all. Vettel also entered the Mercedes race debrief to congratulate the team, which led to the Silver Arrows posting on social media the words, quote, "Humility in victory, grace in defeat. These are the attributes of great champions." And the only thing I have to add to that is hear, hear. And speaking after the race about the title fight, Vettel stated, "He drove superb all year and was the better one of us two. I told him well deserved and to enjoy it. Number 5 is something incredible. I asked him to keep pushing for next year and be at his best to fight him again. There can only be one winner, and he is the one who deserves it this year. There are still a lot of lessons to learn, and we need to make sure we make the right conclusions. We are a very talented and gifted team. We have the most support behind us. We have huge potential, of which some still needs to be unleashed. We are fighting very hard, but we will try to beat Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship and knock them off their throne to give them a taste for next year." In terms of the race though, quite frankly, I think he drove superbly. He had a hell of a lot on the line and that pressure can't have been easy to handle, and you have to wonder as well how much recent mistakes would have been playing on his mind and adding even more pressure onto his shoulders. But if that was the case, it certainly didn't show. He just handled it all very well. He went wheel to wheel, really raced hard with Daniel Ricciardo twice during the Grand Prix, passing him once and making his way past a second time when the Aussie retired. He also fought Lewis Hamilton and passed the Brit on lap 39. And after clearing Ricciardo when he retired, Vettel then went after Max Verstappen, but by the time he had cleared that second Red Bull, the Dutchman had a very big lead and was pretty much in control, as I've already said. Honestly, for me, I think Vettel was brilliant during the race, and although he lost the title in the end, he certainly gave it all he could in Mexico, and you can't really ask any more than that. Let's move on from all that title talk then, and as touched on there, it was another thoroughly miserable end to what had looked like a promising race for Daniel Ricciardo on Sunday morning. The Aussie delivered a stunning lap during qualifying on Saturday to deny his teammate the record of youngest ever pole sitter, and after that session he was tripping major nutsack, as he put it, but his mood after the race on Sunday could not have been more different. On lap 60, after fighting to hold off Sebastian Vettel, smoke once again began coming out the back of his Red Bull, and Ricciardo soon pulled over to retire. It was confirmed by Christian Horner after the race that the latest in a long line of reliability issues for the Aussie was a sudden hydraulic failure. And speaking after making his way back to the paddock, Ricciardo expressed that he had had enough and even offered Pierre Gasly his car for the rest of the season. Alright, probably just a case of in the heat of the moment, but still, Ricciardo stated, "Helpless, I think, is the best word. Just another problem with this car. It's not been a clean weekend for so long, and even today, the starts have been so good all weekend. For the race start, it's all over the place with the pre-start. You know, honestly, now where I am, I don't see the point of coming on Sunday. I don't see the point of doing the next 2 races. I haven't had a clean race or weekend in so long. I'm not superstitious or any of that bullshit, but the car's cursed. I don't have any more words. Just things are happening on a Sunday that I've got no more explanation for. I don't know. The car, I'll let Gasly drive it. I'm done with it." Look, I said it last week and I'll say it again, it's a joke. In fact, no, it's beyond a joke. The guy just cannot catch a break and his luck has been ridiculously bad this season. Don't forget, this is a guy who won 2 of the opening 6 races. A guy who, at one point in this season, we were discussing as a possible outsider for the championship. Yes, of course, would need a lot of luck, but we did start to ask that question after those 2 wins. But he hasn't stood on the podium since his win in Monaco. His frustration is completely understandable, and for him, and I'm sure his fans as well, the season's end just can't come soon enough. Let's go through a few other talking points then before I get on to my driver of the day, and Stoffel Vandoorne drove very well on Sunday to bring his McLaren home to 8th place and pick up 4 very valuable points for the team. In fact, given that Force India failed to score, that could well go a long way to sealing 6th in the Constructors for the Woking outfit. It wasn't all plain sailing for the Belgian though. He struggled early on, dropping to 19th at the end of lap 1, but he fought his way back through the field, and thanks to some very good tyre management, and that's despite having to go aggressive and push hard, he pulled off the one-stop strategy to grab that 8th place. That equalled his previous best finish of the season, and it was the first time he had picked up points since Baku. And by the way, that first lap collision between Brendan Hartley and Esteban Ocon was investigated by the stewards, with them deeming that the Toro Rosso was at fault. They awarded Hartley a 5-second time penalty and 2 penalty points on his super licence. It was a pretty dire end to the weekend for Force India in all honesty. In fact, Esteban Ocon described it as probably the worst race of my whole Formula 1 career. But it wasn't any better for teammate and hometown hero Sergio Perez. The Mexican was running very well and looked set for points, but then a brake seal failed on his car and that forced him to retire. A very disappointing end to what had looked like a potentially good result for the Mexican. Pierre Gasly was another driver who had an incredibly good race. The Frenchman started down in 20th place and fought his way up through the field to take 10th, and of course with it, that final point. And it really was a great drive from Gasly, but also the team deserve a mention because of their strategy. Given how bad the degradation was on them, there were a few raised eyebrows, I'm sure, when people saw him starting on the Hypersofts. But that allowed him to go aggressive and ultimately make the 2-stop work. Fantastic drive. Carlos Sainz was running well and looked on for a solid result. However, on lap 29, his car suffered from an electrical shutdown, and that inevitably led him into retirement. And that was a real shame because he had been running ahead of his teammate to that point. And when you consider that Hülkenberg finished 6th, the Spaniard probably missed out on a hefty haul of points. And Williams have been fined €25,000 for an unsafe release with Lance Stroll. The team released a Canadian from his pit box too early, and that led to him hitting one of his mechanics. Thankfully though, the mechanic was not hurt, but the stewards still understandably took action, saying, quote, "While the contact did not result in injury, the stewards found that it is the obligation of the team to ensure that all personnel are clear of the car before it is released." For me, all that matters in that situation is the mechanic was okay. On to my driver of the day then, and Max Verstappen was awarded the title by the fans for the second weekend in a row, but this is a really tough one for me. Whilst I completely agree he was fantastic in Mexico, as I kind of touched on in yesterday's livestream, I would be more inclined to make Verstappen my driver of the weekend, just because I feel that although the Dutchman was faultless during the race, Sebastian Vettel drove equally brilliantly and had to get some overtaking done, and that is why I'm making the German my driver of the day. As mentioned earlier, he had all that pressure on his shoulders, and given what has happened at times when he's gone wheel to wheel this season, it was great to see him putting it all on the line and going super aggressive, and more importantly, making their moves stick as well. Alright, yeah, he had much better tyres than Hamilton, and there was no way the Brit was going to engage in too much of a fight with him, but he still made the move, and he managed the same on Daniel Ricciardo as well. I'm not going to talk too much more about Vettel because I'd already covered him a little bit earlier in the video, but it was a really good drive from him, and he deserves a lot of credit for it. A few honourable mentions though, as I've already said, Max Verstappen was brilliant all weekend and deserves yet another mention. Nico Hülkenberg kept his head down through the race and delivered a very good result for Renault and a good handful of points that could well have sealed 4th in the Constructors for the team. Charles Leclerc was very impressive as well, taking 7th, and how can I not mention Stoffel Vandoorne for his drive to 8th and Pierre Gasly for his very impressive comeback drive. All in all, some seriously strong performances from a number of drivers in Mexico. Before I go then, let's have a quick look at the championship table, starting with the drivers. There it is confirmed, Lewis Hamilton is the 2018 Formula 1 World Champion. He currently has 358 points. Sebastian Vettel is in second on 294 with teammate Kimi Raikkonen behind on 236. Valtteri Bottas stays 4th on 227, but Max Verstappen is only 20 points off Kimi Raikkonen in 3rd. 2 races to go, you never know. Daniel Ricciardo now getting cut adrift in 6th place on 146, but he's well clear of Nico Hülkenberg in 7th. The Renault driver has 69 points and looks pretty safe there at the moment, but I'm sure Sergio Perez will do all he can to try and take that 7th place. He's 8th on 57, Kevin Magnussen still has 53, and Fernando Alonso remains 10th on 50 points. In the Constructors' Championship, the fight is still on. Mercedes have 585 points with Ferrari on 530. So that's a 55-point gap with 86 still available. You'd have to say Mercedes are still the favourites, but it's not over yet. Red Bull obviously remain third on 362 points, but Renault have stretched out a big lead over Haas in that fight for fourth now. It's looking very good for them. They have 114 points to Haas's 84. McLaren is sixth with 62 points. And after failing to score this weekend, Force India stay on 47. And I have to say, I think that fight is pretty much over now. As mentioned earlier, Sauber have moved ahead of Toro Rosso. Now they have 36 points with the Italians on 33. And Williams remain a long way behind in 10th with just 7 points on the board. That is it then for the Mexican Grand Prix debrief. And what did you make of the race on Sunday? Were you impressed by Max Verstappen's drive? Who was your driver of the day? And also, what are your thoughts on Lewis Hamilton sealing his 5th world title? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Now, I will be back later in the week with another video, but don't forget to join us live this Wednesday at 7 PM UK time for the 50k special. And if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer during that stream, then please do pop them in the comments section using the hashtag 50k. In the meantime, though, you can follow me over on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.